Okay, hello and good afternoon, unless you're in Hawaii time and then it's still morning, or Alaska, or somewhere else in the Eastern Pacific. Or if you're watching us on a recording, good morning, good afternoon, good evening as appropriate. And while I am at the greetings part, if you comment hashtag live or hashtag replay as appropriate, the point of this public Facebook group is to give training opportunities for people who are in the audience, who are followers of the channel. And I'm literally looking up the number right now. There are 4,786 people who are probably not going to get notified that we just went live. So if you can help your neighbors out by tagging, that increases the number of people who get notified. And I'm going to do a little tag here. Are you giving people too much reason to block you? So what we're going to talk about today is, what if the very first thing that you're saying to someone is causing them to ignore you? It's giving them the reason to say, I can't afford to invest mental energy in listening to this person. If, for example, you were to walk up to me and say, I have the most perfect hair growth program, you're going to love it. You've already told me that I don't need your help, because I have decided that this is my hairstyle. I'm going to keep this hairstyle. They can put me in the ground with this hairstyle. If you walk up to me and say, I can grow your hair, you've already disqualified yourself from occupying any space in my brain. That's not to say that you shouldn't offer hair growth products. The point is, you should know who your audience is. And when you're not talking to your audience, talk about something else. But what we're going to really talk about today is, instead of talking about what you do, focus on talking about them. If the first thing that you say is, this is what I do, and I often, when I do these kind of talks, I talk about this laundry list, and we're going to use some examples here later during the session, if I can remember where they are. There we go. That's one of them. So I often talk about, people do these laundry lists of, I can do all these things, and they hope that one of them resonates. And the person who's listening isn't processing all of the data that just got dumped at them. And so they're not going to take any action. And I'm making some absolute statements here, and I will continue to make for the next 45 minutes or hour, absolute statements. And they're not true in the universal, empirical, absolute sense of the word true. When I make a generalization, that doesn't mean that there are not exceptions. In fact, there absolutely are exceptions to the generalization. The joke version is, every generalization is wrong, including the generalization that every generalization is wrong. The point is, I'm making some statements to which, one, there are going to be exceptions, and two, there are circumstances under which the statement at the surface level doesn't hold true in the specific circumstance. But what we're going to talk today about and I do have my Facebook. Okay, I got a reaction. I've got a to my Facebook Live. I've got a little bit of interaction, so that's good. Thank you. I appreciate Curtis. I appreciate Melissa. I appreciate. I got a ha 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 from Saeed Hadir. That's good. I like that. Because you're getting the joke. The 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 fact of the matter is still true, but it's not an absolute truth, and therefore we can poke fun at it. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is outreach that interrupts versus outreach that connects. When you enter into a conversation with someone, you send them an email, you send them a DM, you send them like this DM you messenger message, you send them a text message, and this is a perfect example. I own some property. Mount Rainier is about 30 miles right across the ridge right there. I own some property in Western Washington. I get this message fairly regularly from a different email, different phone numbers all the time. We would love to acquire your buildable land in the Pierce area. Do you have an asking amount? Sure, I have an asking amount. It's $10 million because I like my property. And if you were to give me enough money, there is a price that I would sell this property for. But it's not a price that that person is going to be willing to pay. They are trying to interrupt my life with their pitch. And in a way, it is a bonus, it is a benefit, it is a act of kindness, because when their outbound message is so transactional and it arrives in my box and I read it, I can immediately wash it out of my head. They have saved me the effort of having any kind of conversation with them, because I know exactly what their request is, what their offer is, and I know it's not interesting to me. Therefore, I save both of us time of having a conversation. I had a solicitation probably 3 months ago now. Someone in my email to my business email account, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about this, and I responded, I run this GHL business launch training program for how to do outreach well, right? I just need to get on a call with you and have a conversation. Went back and forth 2 or 3 times. And here's the reality. That person that I was talking to is paid for appointments. And so they weren't taking no for an answer. But they set up a 3-way appointment between myself and themselves and their principal, the person they set appointments for. And as soon as I was talking, because I literally asked, can I talk to the person that we're setting the appointment for? And he said, no, he'll be on the call with us. Okay. Within the first 3 minutes of getting on the call, I said, okay, I told your person who's on the call with us, I told them that I'm selling, not buying. Why are you, is your only outcome for me to buy from you? And the principal at that point very quickly said, yes, we're not on the same sheet of music. There's no point in having this conversation. Let's save everybody time and end the conversation. That was the point. So the good thing, if you're doing outreach that is transactional and your intention is to be transactional, and you would rather just run through the numbers and burn the bridges, that is a valid choice. And the good thing about that particular choice is it saves everyone time. So I'm not opposed to someone taking that approach. If that's the right approach for you, then go for it. The point of the next, now down to like 40 minutes, 50 minutes, is to say what we teach in GHL Business Launch is how to not be transactional and instead how to be relational. So the point of relational is understanding what the other person wants out of the conversation and then seeking to find a mutually beneficial win-win for both parties. When you lead with the pitch, the only option that person has is to say, yes, continue pitching me, or no, I don't want to ever hear from you again. What I'm going to propose today is if you lead with curiosity, if you lead with queries, if you lead with questions, you get the opportunity to continue exploring what the future might look like instead of an abrupt termination of the conversation. So, here is the difference between poor outreach and good outreach. Poor outreach expects an immediate sale, and the only positive possible outcome is a sale. Good outreach seeks to build rapport and understand needs and then match those needs with an offer. Here's my message. People do not buy from strangers. People buy from people who understand them. And again, there are exceptions. Every once in a while, and I'm going to actually describe the key way that the exception happens. But in general, there is a quote by Bob Burg, author of Go Giver. It says, all other things being equal, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. And I'm going to expand that to say, in that order. They can't buy from you if they don't know you exist. They can't buy from you if they don't like you, if they think that you are, if you are somehow thank you, Arham. If they think that you're just in it for the buck, that you're not really interested in solving their problem, you're just interested in getting the transaction, they can't like you, and therefore they won't buy from you. And then, even if they know and like you, if they don't trust that you can actually deliver the thing, they similarly still can't or won't buy from you. So, Bob Burg, all other things being equal, the other things have to be equal, because if someone, the way someone buys from somebody that they don't know, like, or trust is they think the product is superior. So they don't like or trust the person, but they trust the quality of the product, the promises of the deliverables. In that case, they might buy something from someone that they don't know, like, or trust. All other things being equal also means that if it's not the same product, or if it's a product that's priced significantly differently, people might buy the thing that's lower priced but meets their needs, where your offer is a higher priced, trust-based offer. And so they might know and like and trust you, but they think that this other thing that's cheaper can accomplish the task, and therefore they buy the cheaper thing. One of my mentors, H.R. Huntsman, and I will include a link to his Leader's Edge training coaching program in my show notes. H.R. Huntsman says, establish connection through curiosity. Seek to be curious about other people. Ask the question about them, understand their needs. That gives you the opportunity to build a connection where they can start seeing the value you bring to the table and how you contribute to their needs, their objectives, their goals. I am not by in any means implying that you do not have great value. In fact, I'm explicitly saying the exact opposite. I think many of the people who I'm talking about or to have this issue where they know the value they bring to the table. They know this laundry list of skills that they bring to the table. They know they can accomplish things for a person. But the person, what I'm trying to communicate is the person hasn't seen them yet. And so when they lead with a pitch and the other person says, I don't have time to think about whether that laundry list applies to me, they end the relationship before it even has time to begin. Trust is built over time. It's not built from a single DM. So if you're selling a transactional thing and you just want to burn through a bunch of cold DMs, that's fine. But you're not going to build trust. You're never going to achieve trust. Trust takes multiple touches over time and multiple conversations. Okay, Rosie, that's a really great way to reframe my thought, because the advantage of giving people permission to ignore you is that you can remove the pressure of trying to close a sale, and neither one of you has to make a sale, and then you get to have a actual human conversation. That is an important distinction. I will make sure that I incorporate that in my follow-up notes. Okay. So here's my next thought. Engagement in these social media platforms is about conversation, not self-promotion. And yes, there are Facebook groups where self-promotion is permitted, but what most of us find very quickly is the culture of that group that allows people to post their own promotional content very quickly shifts to a billboard of a whole bunch of people's pitch, and no one is interacting with any of those pitches. It's just a place to, it's just a directory listing of all the places. And maybe it has value to the person because they have in the description, they have the link to their website, and now it's a low quality backlink, but it is a backlink to their website. So maybe there's some value in that sense, but it's not, because those Facebook groups, and I think there's some LinkedIn groups that are similar, that because they allow, as soon as they start allowing those kinds of posts, that very quickly becomes overwhelming the type of posts that are in the group. Thus, the reason that here in the GHL Business Launch Facebook group and in the private group, in the private training program on Colab, we don't allow self-promotional posts isn't because we're opposed to you having conversations with each other about how you can achieve win-win collaborations. The reason we're opposed to your self-promotional posts is because we don't want it to become about you pitching and not listening. Um, the issue is there are a whole bunch of people who are copying scripts from sales gurus, and those scripts work for someone else in some other industry or in some other context, or with a particular audience. And whether they're the right script for you depends on your product, your audience, what we describe as in the channels that you're communicating in, what we describe as your niche. Those three things happen to also be the first 3 points of the 9-point marketing plan. Who's your audience? What is your message? What channels? And your message needs to be formatted in a way that is respectful of the channel that it's in. And it has to be in a channel where your audience is going to be listening, and it has to be framed in a way that your audience will pay attention. So so one thing I do want to make clear is when I tell somebody that is spam, I do not mean that is scam. In English, the words are very, very close together, but they mean significantly different things. A scam is an unlawful attempt to extract value from someone unjustly. Spam is simply a message that is sent to the wrong person at the wrong time. Merriam-Webster defines spam as unsolicited, usually commercial messages, typically emails, text messages, or internet postings, sent to a large number of recipients or posted in a large number of places. And the large in that context is conditional. If you're a solo business owner like me, 3 to 5 places might be a large number of places based on your ability to actually respond if everyone out of all those groups actually responded to you. So I'm going to do a share screen if I can. Maybe I can't transition directly to share screen once I've gone this far into the video. That's fine. All right. I'm going to go ahead and drop into the notes. I'm going to drop a link to this graphic. So if anyone wants to follow along with my thought process, they can. So the graphic is a continuum from spammy behavior to great cold outreach. And again, I started this by saying I'm not opposed to people doing cold outreach. I think cold outreach is absolutely necessary if you're going to have your business have a chance of expanding beyond a very tight, close local network of people. Spam and bad cold outreach are unsolicited. Great cold outreach is also unsolicited. Good cold outreach, great cold outreach. It's unsolicited. That's the definition of cold. The difference is whether the person who receives it feels respected and that the message is relevant to them, versus if the message is framed in a way that builds trust in a relationship. So here's the situation under which what I would describe as a spammy message might actually feel like a lifeline to the right person. It might actually feel like the perfect message. And that is a matter of timing. If the person has been actively wrestling with, how do I solve this problem? And they're not in a decision matrix cycle where they have 6 or 7 people that they're trying to decide who to get it from. Maybe they have 1 or 2 and neither one of them they're really happy with. Or maybe they have no provider at all. It's a unique enough service that there literally isn't a deep enough pool that the person knows someone that has that skill set. In that moment, if that message that I would describe as spam, that I would describe as bad cold outreach, comes in, and that person says, "This is the problem that I was trying to solve. This person understands the problem that I was trying to solve." That can feel like a lifeline, and suddenly save them from having to go find 3, 4, 5 other providers and then go through the decision matrix process of sorting which one to buy from. Usually, when that bad cold outreach or spam message comes in, it results in a hard pass. And we kind of framed it early in the conversation as why it's a hard pass, or that the fact that it becomes this way of saving brain power. Mainly because the person who's receiving the message, their time is valuable. They probably already have options, and now a message from someone who doesn't have trust, who's an unknown entity, comes in without context for why the conversation. So very often I respond to people. Comes in without context for why the conversation started, and the person who's on the receiving end is put in this position of, do I just cease the operation? Do I just stop the conversation? Or do I let it continue when I know that I'm never going to buy from that person and that person's interest is entirely in selling to me? One of the things that sometimes happens to me is I get these messages that say, well, I'm connecting with you because I see that you're in the high-level world. Okay, and that's fine. But if you're just liking and commenting on my engagements in the public view, in the high-level university, in high-level's Facebook group, in all of the other Facebook groups that are run by people who are in the high-level space, and you're just engaging with me, all well and good. When you reach out to me and then say, I want to make a connection request on LinkedIn or a connection friend request on Facebook, now you're saying you're stepping the level of engagement, the level of relationship up, but you haven't given me a context for why. The purpose behind the outreach must match the platform or the feature or the culture of the context in which it is presented. Community posts, community groups are about building community, about shared information, shared understanding. When they become self-promotional, they become about that person instead of that person's relationship with the person they're trying to talk to. Engage with the person you're trying to talk to's content rather than pushing your own content. When you're in someone else's community, whether it's a collab, whether it's the high-level university on Collab, whether it's the Collabers Collab group on Collab, which are owned and operated by High Level themselves. What is the reason? What is the value they're trying to get from that group? They're trying to get people to engage with growing their platform, with either growing the utilization of the platform by people, or improving the technical skill capabilities of the platform by asking people to provide feedback on how the developmental process should go. If you're in that group, in that context, and you're doing something other than engaging in one of those two outcomes that is their objective, then you're no longer aligned with the value and purpose of the group. Similarly, when you're in someone's Facebook group, or when you're in someone's collab group, that group exists on a platform that is owned by someone else. Facebook is owned by Meta. Collab is owned by High Level. But that group on that platform is owned, operated, and managed by a person for a purpose. So imagine it this way: you have a village or town main street, and along the side of the street are the series of shops. The street is managed by the city, and the shop owners pay taxes to maintain maintain the street. And the shop owners pay property taxes to the city for the amount of property that they occupy. And then they have utility bills: water, electric, sewer, trash, and internet. And they're paying to have this property, this facility, on this piece of land, so that people can get off the main street and into them to do a thing. So if you were to walk into that place, you should be engaged in that place, in the thing that that person wants, not in what you want. All right. So the point is, back to the topic, when you're in someone else's space, if your messaging is aligned with the purpose and culture of why that space exists. So if the space is a tea shop, and you go in and you try to sell tea, that's you being self-promotional. If the space is a tea shop and you come in and you start talking with the community, with the people who are tenants of that, and say, hey, what do you love about this tea? That is a totally different conversation. Okay, so I'm going to share a couple of examples, fairly recent, but I'm deliberately avoiding names because it's not about who sent me this message or what platform they sent it to me on. It's about these are how to not do cold outreach well. These are not necessarily spam, but definitely leaning toward the bad end of the spectrum. Hi, I'm so-and-so, a GHL expert with 3+ years of experience setting up automation funnels, websites, pipelines, AI chatbots, and complete CRM systems. I've worked with clients in real estate, insurance, fitness, med spa, cleaning, coaching, and more, helping them streamline operations, increase conversions. If you need someone reliable to set up or improve your GHL system, I'd be happy to help. If you'd like, we can jump on a quick call to discuss your goals in detail. This is an exact example of the kind of message that very quickly allows the person to say no. You're listed this laundry list of things, and even if I need them, you haven't given me a compelling reason why you are the provider I should go to versus the 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 other people that I know. Or in my case, I had this Facebook group with 4,700 people in it. About a third of them are highly proficient with High Level. So I ask, is this cold DM trip working for you, or are you interested in learning how to get different results? The response was really interesting. It is true that a lot of DMs sound the same. And the person probably could have gone a different way from there, and it would change my perception of this conversation entirely. But instead they say, the difference is in delivery and execution, which is what I help businesses fix inside their GHL systems. Still, I'm always looking to improve my approach. So if you have, so that right there was a pitch. This next thing was great. Still, I'm always looking to improve my approach. So if you have insights, I'm listening. The person gave me the window. I said, okay, here, start here. And I sent them a link to one of my YouTube videos. And they went silent. And so this is what happens for me a lot. The second that I communicate the fact that my time is valuable, I've pre-recorded a whole bunch of content, like this content I'm doing right now, and there's no point in me saying again 6 or 7 times something that I articulated clearly 3 or 4 times already. And I will send somebody a link to something, either a YouTube link or a Facebook post. Or if we're inside the Collab group, I'll send them the link to the training on Collab that I've already suggested that they should complete. And they go silent. Why do they go silent? Because suddenly it sounds like work. And they don't want to work, they want to pitch. There was no personalization here. And the degree to which they responded with, I'm interested in listening to more, wasn't reflected in what they actually did next. Because what they actually did next is go silent. So here's one that happened last week. I get a link in my Instagram to one of my YouTube videos. And the person follows that up by saying, I'm a professional digital marketing specialist. I've been providing promotional services for the last 4 years. For example, I promote YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, SoundCloud, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Since the video that they sent me was the video about my the video about the business card scanner on Lead Connector, I said, hi, name, thanks for reaching out to me. Are you looking to add the business card scanner, in-person business networking, because I was describing how to use the business card scanner, or the CRM platform to your list of services? Actually, and they talked about them. My service is 100% organic and my service charge is very low. I want to help you, friend. This is the second message from you. It's actually the third, including the link to the video. We're not friends yet. My response goes back to them. The person responds, I want to help your YouTube video go viral all over the world. Are you willing? They assume that I have that as a desired outcome. They have not asked me a single question about why I have a YouTube channel, or what I expect from my YouTube channel, or whether going viral is even remotely interesting to me. They have not done any discovery questioning. They're only pitching. Yeah, that's enough of what they did. Um, the point is, when when someone brings their message to the table and says, I can do this for you, but the you in that sentence has never expressed an interest in having that thing, um, it puts the person who's receiving that message in the place of, I don't need your thing. It ensures that there's no relationship. There's only the entire the position that the provider is communicating is entirely transactional. Either buy my thing or we have nothing to talk about. At least in this other person's case, they just ceased talking. In this person's case, they continued to talk. Here's a statement. I asked you a lot of questions. Your robot didn't reply. It just talked about your company. My response: no, you asked only one question. Do you want to buy my services? You simply asked it in a couple of different ways, but it was the same question. My bot did its job, which is to schedule sales appointment with people who are interested in having a conversation about what Bald Guy Marketing might offer, or offer people to do training, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. Or what usually happens is they self-select out like this other person did. They just cease talking. They go quiet. In this case, this person continued for a fairly extensive length of time, and then eventually started cussing at me. It was pretty. It was highly entertaining, actually. Yeah. So at one point, I sent a link to a video. It was the Art of Asking Better Questions video, which is like a precursor to this one. And the response was, do you want to run ads on that video? To which a couple different conversations, but then I said, ask him, okay, did you listen to the video? He says, yeah, I've listened to the video. Okay. Then what did you learn from listening to the video? And at that point, he started cussing at me. The point being, if you're assuming what the other person needs and wants is your thing, and you haven't done any qualifying questions, any discovery questions, your assumptions are probably invalid. In my earlier AIDA sales funnel training, we talked about how each of the steps, attention, interest, desire, action, represents a psychological milestone. They are aligned with, not perfectly, but they're correlated with, that's probably a better way to say it. They're correlated with know, like, and trust. Attention is the know level. Like is boundary between interest and attention. Trust as the desire phase. And only after attention and interest and desire can someone choose to take action. When someone's cold outreach is a bad generic message to the wrong audience at the wrong time, or it's literally spam, it jumps. The most common reason is it's jumping straight to the action stage and skipping attention, interest, and desire. It is assuming desire. It is expecting interest because the topic is interesting to the person who is the provider, the person who's trying to sell. In good social outreach, You should be guiding someone through the psychological stages of attention, interest, desire, action, not directing or demanding or expecting action before the relationship has had time to build. So here's the better path. And the difference between good outreach and great outreach is something for sales trainers, coaches, and psychologists to discuss. I'm not qualified to discuss the nuanced differences at that stage. When you look at my graphic on my YouTube, you'll see that the descriptive bullets aren't aligned directly under the titles, because the titles on the spectrum are just the continuum. They're not definitional. There's no clear definitional boundary between them. Good outreach starts with curiosity. Good outreach starts with interest, being, as Dr. Meissner, the founder of BNI, says, be interested, not interesting. It starts with being more interested in the person than interesting in the way you talk about your thing. It's about asking questions instead of leading with an offer. It seeks to understand the other person's goals first. So here's some questions that you might use instead of, do you want to buy my thing? Do you want to jump on a discovery call? Do you want me to help you promote that? Do you want my help with that? What kind of projects are you excited about right now? This works because it's positive. It's about what the person's interested in. It gives them a chance to engage. It's positive, non-threatening. It's not about, I do this thing, how does that tie to what you do? It's, what do you do? Tell me about why you're excited. It invites the why. It invites the storytelling instead of asking them, what's your problem that you want to solve? I've literally seen somebody post, what are your pain points? Well, I don't know, like, or trust you. I'm not going to tell you my pain points. You haven't earned the right to hear my pain points. That question, what kind of projects are you excited about right now, signals interest in them without implying that they're stuck and that they need a savior. Another question, how did you get started doing what you're doing? This is really very much about building the human relationship. This is discovering why the person does what they do. And one of the things that I discover in business networking when I'm talking to people is very often people will describe their business as, well, I like to help people. The reason for being in business, I like to help people. But I've heard the insurance person and the massage therapist say the same word. I like to help people. And so until I ask them, why do you help by selling them insurance versus why do you help by massaging their joints and their fascia tissues, I start hearing the story behind why they do what they do. I start hearing the passion behind why they do what they do. If you're leading with a pitch, you never hear their passion. You never hear their why. This question opens the door to what their values are and what motivates them. And even the most guarded prospect is willing to tell you the story of how they got into whatever business they're in. Here's another question. What usually brings the right people to you? too often the way this question is asked is, how do you get new leads? Or are you getting enough leads? Asking it this way, what brings the right people to you, gives them a chance to tell you who the wrong people are. It doesn't assume that there's a problem. It actually says, I expect that you have a good system for getting the right people to you. Who are the right people, and how does the system work? They start revealing their acquisition strategies. This is in that 9-point marketing plan. This is message. This is all three. This is who the audience is, who's the ideal client versus the non-ideal prospect, what message is getting their attention, and what channels are working to get that message to that person so they can take action. It bridges into a marketing conversation if that's the way you need to go, but only after they've expressed the things that are working, and maybe hint that there are some things that could be tweaked or could be adapted. Now you have build rapport. Now you build know like. If you then start talking about, well, I've actually helped people with that particular problem, with that particular situation, get additional results on top of that. That starts becoming interesting especially when I use the word problem. And for our academic perspective, academic discussion, that's probably okay. But when you're having a conversation with them, probably not okay to use the word problem. Here's another great question. What are you enjoying most about your business? This is an NEPQ, neuro-linguistic NEPQ. I don't even know what it stands for right now. It's emotion first. It's what are you enjoying about your business? It's low friction, high rapport. It's making you feel like a person who's interested in them rather than someone who's trying to sell to them. The intent of these questions is to show interest before pitching, build rapport, seek to understand the other person's objectives. Then, if you do come to a place where you want to make an offer, that offer is not a cold pitch. That offer is in a context of, this is what I can do. Would it be helpful to you? If you are doing outreach without curiosity, you are making noise. And we're all inundated by commercial messages. 3,000 to 6,000 commercial messages a day. We don't need more messages. We don't need more noise. We need more clarity. Great outreach begins with questions, not with pitches. The better the question, the greater the outreach. The farther on the spectrum it reaches. The less it's about you and the more it's about them, the more it transitions from good to great. The more it's not about them and is just about you throwing your message out, hoping someone will bite, slides farther and farther past bad cold outreach to spammy messaging. Guide someone through the psychological stages of the sales funnel: attention, interest, desire, action, rather than pushing them to take action. So if all of this is interesting or helpful, I hope I gave you some very practical, say this instead of that. If you want to know where to say this and who to say it to, The OmniHub Challenge short course, 5 lessons inside the GHL Business Launch Private Training, is distilling down, building out your marketing plan. The Social Media Sniper training by Devin Tracy is the most valuable 12 minutes of video you'll ever see. And it's less than 13 minutes of total video. I'm convinced that if you watch it on 2x time, you'll still end up spending 14 to 15 minutes watching it, because you'll play it for me. I play it on 2x speed, and I play it 2 to 3 times every time I play it. It's that important. And it is part of the program. So the reason you should take this concept that I'm teaching, presenting here in GHL Business Launch on Facebook, and you should join our private community, is you get those trainings in a structured format instead of just me rambling once a week, and you get the opportunity to give us feedback on the lessons, in the discussion channels, and in email, where we can discuss how it applies to you. Because in this format, I can tell you what I think. I can make recommendations. What I can't do is adapt it to your particular situation, because the "your" in this sentence is 4,700 people in this Facebook group. Every one of us is in a different place in our business. We're in a different place in our life. Our business has different unique nuances. And so in a 1-hour training, we can't say everyone should do this. In fact, one of my issues with the gurus is they will often say, oh, look at me, I'm here. The way you get here is by doing these things that I did. But if that's not the right path for you, you may in fact get to where they are, and you'll be very miserable the whole time getting there, and you'll get there and you'll be unfulfilled, you'll be unhappy, you'll be not living the impactful life that you should live. You're living the impactful life that they were made to live. You are made to live a different impactful life. You should go on your journey. In this Facebook group, I can describe how you might chart your journey. In the private training, I can partner with you to lead you through your decision cycles to find your journey. That's going to be different than mine. My journey is not your journey. So I will leave a link in the notes to on the Facebook side, but when I put the recording on the collab side, I won't be putting this link in there because you're already in it. But I'll put a link for how you get access to the private training, and along with the private training comes the consulting, coaching, advising, partnership, collaboration to help you move forward to live the life that you were made to live.